Well, my story is a little bit different. I think most people, they get the information and then make a decision based on information. But for me, it was through meditation, making a connection that way. I didn't know that's what I was doing, but for 3 years I was meditating. And then one day I was at a restaurant, and it was a meat-based restaurant. Nothing seemed good to me at the time. So I ordered a vegetarian omelet. No meat, no, just, veggies and eggs. I didn't know what a vegan was at the time. And my friend that I was with said, "Are you a vegetarian?" And I was like, "Yes." And from that day forward, I haven't had any meat. So it kind of blew my mind because I knew. You ever had that knowing? You just know you're not going to do something. I knew I wasn't going to eat meat anymore, and I didn't know why. So I had to look up, meditation and vegetarian, and come to find out there's a big connection there. Because when you start to connect to something higher within yourself, and you start to connect to all life. So the story that you're told and the programming that you're running with starts to collapse. And now you start to realize that all animals deserve to live and not to suffer. So these programs that we're running with through meditation, it was starting to fall. So now I'm looking at animals like all animals, like dogs, dogs, they lay up in the bed with us, they have emotions, that love their families. So when I started reading, it was very interesting because most of us can't kill our food, even if we had to do it, because we see the pain and we see the suffering, but we pay someone else to do it. So I asked myself the question, if I don't want to see it done, why am I going to be a part of it? So obviously, to me, there was something inside that said it's not right. So from that point forward, I'm like, okay, I know I'm not going to eat meat anymore. I didn't know what veganism was still. I didn't know it involved a bunch of other stuff, right? I just wasn't eating meat anymore. I didn't know that dairy had any type of violence attached to it. I didn't know the egg process was like that. So I just continued to eat egg whites. And I didn't look for milk in anything. I wasn't a big milk drinker, but it didn't concern me because, of course, cows just have milk and they just take the milk from them and we drink it, right? There's no harm done there. And then I seen a video about the milk process and the egg process because they're so overlooked, especially by vegetarians. We think, oh, we're not doing any harm when there's probably more harm done in the dairy, in the egg industry. So once I realized that, I was like, this whole thing is crazy. And I stopped doing that. And then I even took it a step further because now I realize that we are harming them almost in everything that we do. So my clothing now I'm feeling like I'm wearing somebody's skin, right? I can't do that anymore either. So I'm really starting to get connected and starting to see things I wasn't aware of prior to this waking or dropping the old program. So I take about 30 or 40 pairs of shoes. I have leather shoes, jackets, hats, everything that has anything to do with an animal, and I put them in my trunk. My wife says, well, let's get some bananas and oranges too. Put those in the trunk. Went down to my old neighborhood in Oakland, popped the trunk, and just gave it all away. It wasn't feeling right to me anymore, even though I bought them prior to this happening. So for me, veganism is about unconditional love for all beings. It doesn't matter if they're animal or human. So even with that, the program started to crumble, like I said. And even with people that I looked at a certain way, that started to crumble as well. And I started to realize we all move the way we move because of the conditioning and the programming that we were raised with. So we're all walking around here, living in this automatic reaction and response to everything, thinking that this is us, when really it's the program you're working with. And a lot of times the program has a lot of dysfunction in it, and a lot of hate, and a lot of divisive things that come with it. So if I believe I'm this, and I always give the example about how we get on China about the dog festival, right? Oh, that's terrible. How can you do that to these animals? That's horrible. It's only because of our program that we think these dogs are on a pedestal. It's only because of our program. To them, that's just another animal, which is the truth. It's just another animal. So we get on our high horse about this, but then in Hindu religion, they think cows are sacred. Do we care about their sacred animal? No, we do not. We not one bit about their sacred animal. And that just goes to show you how programming works. Whatever's true for you is true for you, but when you in other cultures, it's not okay because you weren't raised that way. And it's the same with religion. It's the same with anything that causes division. It's a program because beyond the program, we are one. Beyond the program, we are all connected at the deepest level. Beyond the program, there is no racism, right? Beyond the program, there's no speciesism. Beyond the program, we're brothers and sisters, all of us. It's the elimination of the program that's going to bring people together and to live a more compassionate and understanding life. Now, also, when I see people living a certain way, I know it's unconscious. It's unconscious living. So I did almost 40 years of that. So I don't judge those people. I know that they have transformation. I know they can transform their lives and they can change their lives just like I did. So to hold space for them and to still love them the same way you would love anybody else is key to helping them in their transformation. And I think even within the vegan community, there's so much judgment and so much division within the vegan community that's a turnoff to a lot of people. I think if we were just to be like, okay, 80% vegan where people throw them under the bus, if we just say, you're doing great, just keep on coming, you know what I'm saying? It would do a lot more than to judge these people. Because most of us ate meat at one point in time. And if we were going to get judged at that time, I didn't know what a vegan was. But if I were to get judged at that point, who knows? I might have went back the other way. Like, I don't want nothing to do with this. So like I said, veganism to me is unconditional love. It's not basically really about the animals. It's about love in general and compassion and kindness to beings that have the ability to suffer like we do. And that's all animals.
I'm completely on the same page as you. And there's a point I wanted to sort of ask your opinion on, really, based on what you just said. And I absolutely see it myself, this division within the vegan community. And I often think the same thing. We've kind of come so far, we've seen this kind of programming up to a point, to make this kind of big decision to become vegan, but then don't necessarily see that the way that we enact that, the way we discuss that, can actually cause just a different type of division. Where do you think that kind of comes from, given the fact that people have kind of gone that far down the journey?
Well, it's interesting because within the vegan community, you still have people that don't have compassion for other humans, right? They can't see the struggle in other people outside of their own social construct. They somehow made a connection to animals, however that went, whether they've seen a video or whatever, but at the same time, they're not expressing that unconditional love towards any other beings. So you can love these animals, you made that connection, but you still can't love these people that maybe don't look like you, that have a different type of experience. So like for me, it encompassed everyone in all species, right? So for me, when I was making my transformation, I was down at the homeless camps, feeding people vegan food and doing that stuff. I started to have so much compassion for everyone and not to judge them by the situation they're in currently. So I believe if in the vegan community, if you just make the entire connection and not just make a connection with the animals, now you're going to move in a space of love. Now you're going to go, okay, this person, they don't believe the same way I do, but I'm still going to show them love because I understand that's where they are. And the experiences they had in their life might have made them this way, and most likely did. So what's the best way to help people to look at something different? Not to judge them, but to love them. That's the only way you can do it. If you love them, they're going to see something, they're going to receive whatever you're saying in a different way. If I come up to you, and I always use this example as well, if you know the guy that stands outside of the sporting events with the sign that says you're going to go to hell, repent, that guy, right? So that guy versus someone out there that says, handing out pamphlets or whatever that says, I would love for you to stop by our church if you get a chance, and it's very kind to you, you're more likely to go, wow, he was really nice. I think I might go try that out. I like that vibe. But the guy that's judging you and telling you what you're going to do if you don't change your ways, you're going to get the finger. That guy's going to get the finger. Nobody wants to be judged and ridiculed for how they're living. No one. And no one's perfect on top of that. If you want to take the perfect vegans, you can go through that person's house or their car or whatever, you're going to find something that's not vegan. Veganism is about doing the best you can. That is, as long as the best you can when it comes to what you're aware of. You can't change something if you're not aware of it. So you do the best you can. You know, eating meat is no. Dairy is no. You know, the testing on animals, no. But you're still, nobody's 100% vegan. No. You can try as much as you want to try. But even the public transportation, if you ride on that, I mean, so much is out there. So we just got to do the best we can. And if everybody did the best they can, then everything would start to change. But, you know, just the basic stuff of the animal agriculture, that whole industry is just killing the planet off. You know, we know this. It's causing all type of harm and damage. And even the environmentalists that don't want to change their ways because the program is so strong, they won't even speak on this. How are you going to be an environmentalist and not speak on what's causing the most damage and taking up the most resources on the planet? How do you not speak of that? We're so comfortable in what we were raised to believe that we don't want to step out of that box. That box is solid to us. It's real to us. So when we're born, from like birth to 7 years old, we're being created. When we come in, we already know who we are, and then we get created. And depending on your circumstances, what environment you were raised in, you're gonna have a very dysfunctional life like I did. You're gonna grow up believing a certain way about the world and life and marriage and relationships and coping mechanisms. And then when you grow up, this is what you do. Because this is your true belief about yourself and how to move in life. So if they're really dysfunctional and negative, when things come into your life, you're going to react to those things in a negative way. Look, it's very simple to see in very poor neighborhoods the actions and reactions of people in poor neighborhoods. It's because of the story and the on purpose ghettos that are created and the poverty that's there. How do you deal with that, right? So if you're seeing this your whole life and you're seeing people cope to whatever the situation is, this is going to be your coping mechanism as well. It's not about the people, the race of the people. It's about the circumstances the people are put in. If you grab anybody, any group of people, and you put them in a very hard situation, full of poverty and violence, and you stick them in that situation, chances are, and that's why it's so amazing when someone makes it out, because the chances are you're going to be a part of this whole thing, whatever it is, survival. I mean, a lot of times it's just about survival. How am I going to eat? Yeah. How am I going to live? You know what I'm saying? Am I going to get shot going to school? What's going to happen to me? So just like if you were thrown into prison, when you get out of prison, you're going to be a different person because you have to survive this situation by any means necessary. You got to do what you got to do. So as a child, and you have this mind that's still taking everything in, this is what you're taking in, right? The liquor stores on every corner, the fast food, I say this all the time and it rubs people in the wrong way, but the churches, you know, there's churches all through the hood, but there's still the highest, violence in the same neighborhood. Why is that? It's not helping. You know what I'm saying? So you got the crime that's taking place right in front of you as a child. So you normalize it. You become numb to it. So you just think that's the way of life. But if you were to take a kid out of that tough situation, you were to give them support and a support system when they were born, that kid would turn out completely different. So it's really about how we were shaped and made. Look, right now, if we were conscious enough, we wouldn't need laws or rules. We wouldn't need them. We would understand the oneness of everything, and we'd take care of each other, and we would love each other, and we support each other. The only reason why we have rules, and the reason why rules are kind of important, is because we're not conscious enough not to hurt our fellow beings. We're not conscious enough to treat people the way they should be treated. So we have to say, here, this is what you do. Don't kill people. Here, this is what you do. It's like, how are we not conscious enough to understand that this is not okay? How, as a world, how are we not conscious enough to know that the terrible things that we're doing to each other is not okay? We are not conscious enough for the bait. We are children when it comes to that. You know, all the things in the Bible and all these religious texts and stuff, love your neighbor. We can't even get that. We don't even understand that. Because we don't know who we are. And if we don't know who we are, how do we know how to treat people? Right? We believe we're something that we're not. And we believe that our fellow beings are something that they're not. Just like in veganism, we think our fellow beings, some of them should be eaten and then some should be loved. How is that? Why is that? What is the determining factor that says kill this pig that's smarter than a dog, or kill the dog? How is that decision even made? Well, I'm gonna tell you how it's made. Ever since day one, when you were born, the dog was a family pet. It's outrageous. You understand that pet can show love and give love. You understand that? Some people like their pets more than they like their kids. So if that animal has that capacity and the ability to do that, how come we can't see that other animals have the same? And that's what I'm saying. It's a story that's told to us. The reason why everything is crazy right now is because there's a story that's told to us. Some people believe this story, some people believe that story. This causes division. So even when people start making jokes and things like that, I understand the unconsciousness of it all. I don't let it make me angry. I understand where they're coming from. It's funny. It's a joke. You see what I'm saying? And I probably would have thought it was a joke back in the day too, before I understood what it really was and what really happens. You know, no one, I think a lot of people don't even know the process because they try to keep that from us, right? They don't want us to see those videos. They don't want us to go. You don't take kids on a field trip to the slaughterhouse. You don't do that. There's no windows or stuff so you can see the process that's going on here. We don't talk to the people that are basically forced to work in these places, how depressed and how the addiction runs in these families because of what they have to see and experience every day. We don't see that. We see cows happy in the sunshine on a one or two here and there. We see chickens running around having their best life because that's what they want us to see. That's what they want us to believe.
But when these, I mean, and I'm totally with you that there is a deliberate design to this. You know, that these boxes that we're all kind of put in are designed that way. There are power structures that are sometimes visible, sometimes invisible, that put their thumb on the scales, if you like, to tip them in certain directions for certain groups, etc. I'm very aware, like when you sort of through this process of meditation became aware of some of these things, started to think perhaps quite differently, and more openly, really critically thinking about that first kind of food and so on and beyond, obviously beyond. What was the reaction like from your kind of friends and family who perhaps weren't in that same space? You know, have you had much, or have generally you've been lucky enough to be around people who've kind of gone on the same journey with you?
Well, first, like my dad died when I was about 3.5, and there were 7 of us kids, and never had a father figure or anything like that. So it's very, my mom's amazing just because we got to eat, we had food, and she had to do this all on her own, but it was still very dysfunctional. not very educated, always on the system, welfare. I don't know if you know what that is, but when you don't have any money, they give you money to survive, basically. Yeah. So when I got older and I was doing my own thing and I got into the, drinking and selling drugs and living that type of lifestyle, I was really, I didn't really have much contact with my family. And the way we were raised, I love them all, don't get me wrong, but I was never really close to them. And I just moved out of the area. And even if I was, it wouldn't really matter because I always have done my own thing. Like, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if it's a family member. I hear people going, oh, my family's going to do this and my family's going to do that. I'm like, wow, you have a close family. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't care. It's not even that way. I mean, you can't tell me anything. I don't care who you are. So it didn't impact my decision at all. The only one that I had kind of not a problem with, but was like, I ain't going. That's you. I ain't gonna be vegan. Was my wife.
Right.
So when I had the realization, right, I came home. I said, I'm not eating meat anymore. She was like, good, like basically good for you. Good for you. I'm gonna keep eating it, right?
Right.
Right. I know she thought it was crazy, but she's a vegan and been vegan for years now.
Okay.
5 years. But when I came to that realization, I was just like I said, I knew when I got home, I told her immediately, I'm not eating meat anymore. Okay. Right. So she started fixing me food and stuff and leaving this meat out. And then she just kind of got used to that. And all of a sudden she was vegetarian and then she was vegan. And then the daughter, she was 6. She went vegan on her own. And so the family didn't have any impact on what I had going on.
Oh, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just sort of moving forward, thinking about the book and the inspiration for the book. When did kind of the idea start to enter your mind that I need to get some of these thoughts that I have down onto paper?
Well, it kind of just happened. So I believe when you make yourself available and you do the things, like I do my meditation practice, my spiritual practice every day, and when you allow yourself to be open to receive, and that's what meditation, it leaves you open to receive, then you receive things. So I was doing my reading. I read every day. I go to the coffee shop and read every day. And for some reason, I watched this video, and it was about speakers, because I do speaking, and it was like, what are you giving your audience when you speak to them? And I was thinking to myself, like, okay, my message, I give them my love. But a lot of times when you speak, it's great for them at the moment, but when they go back and go into their regular lives, it's just kind of, okay, the message is lost because, like I said, we are programs, and that program is strong. And even though we get new information, we will quickly remove that new information and go back to the program. So he said, what are you going to give your audience? And then there's 10 things that I had written down to speak on. And I usually don't write things down to speak on anything. I just run my mouth. And so I shelved it. I didn't even use it. It was these 10 things. And then when he said that, what are you giving your audience? Boom, those 10 things. I said, I got to go find them because they were all in a notebook somewhere. I said, I'm going to go find those 10 things and I'm going to break them down. And I'm going to speak on them. I'm going to write a book about it. And that's how that happened. And I just started writing. I was so inspired. I'm like, yeah, this is going to help a lot of people. And that's how it happened. Within a year and a half, I think the book was published.
Wow, incredible. And what's the reaction been like from folks?
Oh, it's been so good. I even had someone tell me it's like all the self-help books wrapped into one.
Wow.
I thought that was a real great compliment because, this person reads self-help books and it's super short. There's no fluff. It's just right to the point. Because I'm not a writer. Well, I am now. I mean, I'm not an author, right? But so I don't know how it's supposed to look. I don't know if you're supposed to try to make the big book bigger by putting stuff that's not really important in there or whatever. But I'm just like, this is what's important to me. This is what I'm going to put in it. And when the book came back and it looked so small, I'm like, dang, that book looks small. But then I started getting people going that don't read going, it's small enough where I can read this. Like I can actually read this because it's not a huge book. And it's like it's a guide. So it's something you can always go back to and reference. If you're having a hard day, you can open it up. You're gonna get something out of it, whatever you're looking for. So I've had a very, very good response to it, and I'm getting it into the school systems, into the prison systems, getting into places where people have really lost their way.
Yeah.
They need to look in a different direction. You know, this book basically is a blueprint on how I came out of alcoholism and transformed my life.
I'm really interested in the title. The title intrigued me because you know, like you say, a blueprint for how you got over some of the most challenging things in your life, and hopefully be an inspiration and a practical help to others. But it's interesting that love over fear specifically, that you targeted fear as that's what is often the cause of some of these problems that we go through in life. I'd love to get your kind of your take on that and the sort of the genesis of that title.
Well, I believe fear is the root of everything that we don't want. Every emotion, all hate, all anger, it's all fear is the umbrella that it all comes from. If you look at jealousy, if you look at hate, why would you hate somebody? Because there's something that you fear about that person, right? If you're jealous, you're fearing that you might lose your partner, right? Anger, why are you angry? Because you fear something might be taken away from you. So it's all fear, and all love is an absence of fear. So if you love and fear cannot coexist. You're either living under the love umbrella or you're living under the fear umbrella. The love umbrella is going to feel different than the fear umbrella. So if you ever have this overwhelming negative feeling, there's some fear going on. So people think the love and the hate, but it's really love and the fear, because the hate comes from the fear. You're only hating something or someone because you're afraid of something or someone. That's the only reason you're fearful. If you look at the root of anything that you're going through that's uncomfortable, it's fear behind it. So that's why I use that.
Yeah, it's certainly an incredible kind of observation and a very astute one. And thinking about that, you know, for folks who want to kind of get started on this journey, perhaps have recognised some negative behaviours in themselves, some things that can be categorised under this kind of coping mechanism, coping with fear umbrella. Where would they start for you? You know, like meditation's been incredibly powerful for you. I'd like to get your kind of view on, you know, the opening steps to developing that level of, you know, astute thinking, critical thinking.
Yeah, so awareness is key. Awareness. If you're not aware of something, how are you going to be able to get through that, right? So they have studies now where they know that trauma can be passed down through your generations, right? It can be passed down from your mom, your dad, your grandparents, so on and so forth. It can be passed down. So they went through, they studied some people that were in the concentration camps, and their kids weren't even part of the concentration camps, but their child was suffering from the trauma that they experienced in the concentration camps, right? So it can be passed down through you. So say you come in with a bunch of trauma that's already there, and then you got added trauma onto it. So the reason why we don't like, or a lot of people say, well, I can't meditate, I can't. When you start to get still, all these things start to come up, and it's uncomfortable. So we distract ourselves. For me, I used alcohol. We didn't have all the social media when I started doing my thing. So I didn't have all this stuff, these distractions I can use to get me out of my fearful thinking. So I used the alcohol, and what alcohol did was it got me to a false sense of presence.
Right.
It kind of lowered that fear that I had in me, suppressed it, and allowed the high to be there. So when I was drunk or drinking, I wasn't worried about the future or the past, right? There was no anxiety. There was no depression. I was there. But then you have to deal with the repercussions of what the alcohol is doing to you, even on an emotional level, when you have your hangovers and your body is hurting and you're hurting, everything is hurting. Body, mind, and spirit is hurting. So to get out of that, you got to do it again. And this is how addictions start. And it's not all at once. It just gradually turns into something. So we can't be afraid of what's there. We have to get still. And it doesn't have to be meditation. Go out in the woods. Go sit on the beach if you're close to one. Go be by yourself. See what comes up for you. Unless you do that, you're always going to be suppressing. And what happens when you suppress is it's going to always express itself one way or the other, sooner or later. So the more you push it down, and the more you push it down, the more the pressure builds, and then all of a sudden you're exploding on your partner, your coworker, whatever it is, because it has to come out, and it's stored in the body, or it comes out in disease, or some other way because it's not being taken care of. So whatever you do, you have to get out of the noise and get still. And that's what I did. I just got out of the noise and I got still and I said, what do I need to deal with internally? Until you do that, I don't care what you do. Nothing's going to happen until you heal yourself and allow these traumas to be released. But the healing has to take place first. And that's why so many people have the dream life, but they're still depressed. They haven't taken care of what they need to take care of on an emotional level, on the spiritual level, on the levels that really matter. They haven't taken care of that. Okay, they're great with their finances, right? They have this picture-perfect life, but why are they still killing themselves? Why are they so depressed? Why are they using drugs now when they have the perfect life? It's because they don't have the perfect life. The material things will never give you a perfect life. They can add to your life, but the internal work is where the work needs to be taking place on the inside, not the outside. So when you do that, right, and you take care of whatever you need to take care of, the traumas, the healing, all the emotional stuff, now when you get stuff, you have a different relationship with it. It doesn't validate your life. That's why there's people that have hardly anything, but they're so peaceful. And their life is, they have so much joy in their life. It's like, how can you be in this situation and have so much joy in your life? Because they understand what it's all about. They understand what happiness is all about, what joy is all about, what healing is all about. And they don't need anything outside of them to feel this way. I think the problem with our society is we think when we get something, it's going to change something on the inside. Like if I get $1 million, I'll be good. I'll be happy. If I get the right wife or husband, I'll be happy. If I get the right job, I'll be happy. You'll be happy for about 2 weeks. And then it's back to the same old feelings that you haven't dealt with. So we got to understand that happiness is an inside job. Joy is an inside job. So where do you got to go? Well, if it's an inside job, where you got to go? You got to go inside. Nothing outside is going to do that for you. And like I said, alcohol gave me a false sense of that. And I think that's what people, alcohol and drugs is just a response to trauma. Not knowing how to work through it. Not feel like we don't want to feel this uncomfortable feeling that we're feeling, so we try to get rid of it instead of dealing with it. So anybody that's dealing with any type of addiction, that's just a response to trauma. It's just there's healing that needs to take place, and we don't know how to do it. And that comes back to the programming. How did you see it taken care of when you were growing up? Well, this is what the people I grew up with did. This is how they dealt with it, right? So this is how I'm going to deal with it. I don't know any other way. Counselor, therapist, what is that? Meditation, what is that? I don't have no clue about these things. We didn't have the tools to heal. We didn't have the tools. We didn't have the options like, what can I do if I'm going through this. It was just like drugs or alcohol,
Yeah.
or sex, or whatever it is that takes your mind off the feeling or the emotions that you don't want to deal with. And that's what we did. So we have to. Most people can't sit in the room 5 minutes without feeling uncomfortable, and I think that's where we're at right now. Like, turn off everything for 5 minutes and sit there and see how you feel. How does that feel for you? Most people start to fidget, or like look for their phones, or it's really uncomfortable. We don't want to hear what's going on inside. We don't want to hear the chatter. You got to understand, those voices, that's not you. The voices are not you. The inner dialogue is not you. And you have the power to change that inner dialogue. There's always things that are going to come up. And the key is, how are you going to respond to those things that come up? Are you going to attach to them and let it get you emotional? Or are you going to look at them and just let them go? Just let them pass on by. All thoughts are neutral until you attach something to them. Period. All thoughts are neutral until you give them power. And that's why they say when you focus on something, it grows. So people say, oh, you are your thoughts. No, you are not your thoughts. If you were your thoughts, who's watching those thoughts? You're seeing the thoughts. Seeing the thoughts. That's you. The thoughts are coming. If I tell you not to think about a pink elephant, guess what you're going to do? You're going to think about a pink elephant, right? It just comes. Thoughts just come. Now, what meditation did for me was it changed my relationship to my thoughts. So when the thoughts came, I go, okay, I see you. I see you. And instead of drinking and try to push them down, I'll go get into meditation and deal with it, whatever it is at that time. And don't get me wrong, things still come up. I still deal with fear. I'm not all the way to the point where I don't deal with fear, but I have a different relationship with it now. When it comes, I have different coping mechanisms. I have different things that I can do to bring me back to the present, where there is no fear. So I think it's key for anybody that's starting to get to a place where, even if it's for short periods, just go somewhere and be with you. Because we have all the answers. We have the answers within us. But we think the answer's outside of us. And I think this is the issue. We're looking for others to help us when we can help ourselves. We've always had it. And this is why, when you see a baby that's not programmed yet, you can see God in that baby's eyes. There is pure conscious awareness, no labels, no nothing. Just like, oh, what is going on here? And I don't care if their parents are racist. I don't care if their parents are horrible people. That young baby sees you as God too. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Until they are programmed, that baby will love you unconditionally. Until the parents say, hey, don't love that person, or this person's like that, or don't do this, or don't do that. Don't live your dreams. They shut you down and give you something to live by because they think it's going to be the best for you. But most of the time, all you're doing is taking away from that kid's dreams, because I truly believe we all came here to do something that only we can do it the way we can do it. And it could be an artist. It could be an entertainer. But you have these parents that want you to be a doctor and a lawyer, and you're taking away that kid's spark. You're taking away that fire, the inspiration. And you're a lot of times you're guiding them to something that they hate just to please you. So I believe I believe that now, but prior to that, I really didn't think about it too much. But with my youngest daughter, I'm just like, yeah, whatever lights up your soul, you do that. I'm going to tell you not to walk out on the train tracks or in traffic and the basic don't touch the iron type of stuff. But man, whatever you want to do, whatever lights you up, you do that, because that's what you're here to do. Whatever that is. It doesn't matter. You know how many people that are so successful right now that went against what their parents wanted because they knew. They knew deep down that they were going to do this. They were going to make it happen. This is what would lit them up. And if anything that lights you up, you're that passionate about it, it's going to happen because you're doing it with all your heart. You're doing it with all your soul. You can't stop that. I mean, look at some of the things going on. I mean, people are doing now so successful, and you're like, how did you even start that?
Yeah.
Right? But they did, and they knew it was going to work because there was something inside them that said, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. And they did it. They didn't let no one tell them they couldn't. And I think that's the way we need to be with our kids, except for the basic stay out of harm type things, is let them shine. Let them do what they came here to do. I believe you came here for something specific. I came here for something specific. And everybody else did too. We don't have to settle for just falling in line and doing what others want us to do. We got to shine. We're not here to be regular. I mean, we're miracles already. Why aren't we doing miraculous things? This is what we're supposed to be doing. I think my message is, for one, to run my mouth as much as possible, but to do it with love. Yeah. That's what I do, right? I talk a lot. My wife always has to drive me away from conversations all the time, but I talk a lot. Now I'm on the radio, and it's called Conversations with Monk. So just like we're having conversations right now, well, I talk a lot. That's my thing. Why not be on the radio? You got to go where your strengths are. This is what I love doing because I love sharing love. I love sharing new information that I come across, right? And I'm always open for new information. If there's new information that comes to me that seems better to me, I'm going with that new information. I'm never going to be like, I'm not going to pigeonhole myself. There's always new truths or truths. There's, laws and things that can't be untrue, but there's always new truths as far as our subjective points of view, right? That better truths for us. So as we evolve, our truths might change. Our truths might change. Not truths, but our truths, right? We're all subjective in one way or the other. And that's because of, like I said, going back, it's how we were raised. It's our program. So anytime I come up with new information that's delivered to me, and I think you can only get new stuff when you're ready to receive it. So as you elevate yourself, new information is available for you. As you go higher in your consciousness and your awareness, things will be given to you where, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Because the stuff I believe now, if you would have told me these things 10 years ago, I'd have said, you're crazy. But now look at who's crazy. It's me. That's why I say never say that something or someone is crazy, because all crazy is a lack of understanding. So when you don't know how to understand something, what do you call it by default? Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. No, you just don't understand. If you were to tell a child like the laws of physics or something, they'd think you were crazy. They wouldn't know what you're talking about. No, you just don't understand. So we can't write things off as crazy. Let's investigate whatever that is. And you might not find it so crazy.
100%. 100%. But Monk, there's a point I want to pick up on in there about stillness and the importance of it, and getting back in touch with nature or meditating, whatever your method is, but finding your stillness. And I'm thinking about the last kind of 18 months, 2 years. Now, I appreciate for many it hasn't been a nice moment of reflection for them, but for others there has been a pause, an enforced pause on all of the systems and the kind of treadmill that we might have been on of going to work and so on and so forth. And we've been forced to work from home and these kind of things. Do you think there is ultimately a potential shift in consciousness, if you like, that has been evoked by this kind of last 18 months, 2 years, and almost there is also a backlash from the program, the system, to try and quell that? I'd love to get your view on it.
100%. 100%. There's a shift going on right now. Like, there's people that are, the systems, you don't even want me to talk about the systems put in place. So the systems is what keeps everybody divided. Even with these new mandates and things that are going on, you got people that are just going at each other's necks and it was intended to do this. We gotta understand, whether you do one thing or you do the other thing, we're not meant to be going at each other like that. It's like if you want to say the word victims, we're not victims, but we are the ones that are receiving what the government is giving us as far as what we should do or how we should act when it comes to certain things. And it's pushed. It's push. This narrative is just pushed out there. You're wrong. You're this. You're that. You're this. And anything that causes this type of division, you got to know is intentional. So I see a shift in consciousness. And this is the only way that we're going to get this world to change. It's in consciousness, right? Because if you start to raise your awareness, then you're going to see things you previously didn't see. I was watching politics up until maybe, I don't know how long it's been, but it wasn't that long ago. But I was in there falling right in line. Like, it's just that story that they're giving you is just a story. And once you realize it's a story and both of them are talking about the same thing and they're just targeting different groups of people, you get out of that story because the story's a lie. It's always been set up to have a certain outcome. And some people are waking up and seeing it, and then some people are falling deeper into it. And those people you will know is because their speech is very hateful. Right? They're really identifying with whatever this message is. And it's on both sides of in politics, right? It's on both sides. You got groups of people that would kill over their beliefs. And they're really not even their beliefs. They're someone else's beliefs that they have identified with. I tell people this when they try to say, if you ask a person who are they, most people will have a hard time answering that. And then some people will start naming off their name, their race, their religion, so on and so forth, right? Their whole persona, their whole identity, they will start naming off all these things. Some people were like, that's a tough question. Who am I? But if the people that start naming off all these things, it could be their career, what they do. It's like, first of all, you didn't know your name when you were born. You had no clue who you were. I'll take that back. You knew exactly who you were. You had no clue who you were on this planet at this time, right? You didn't know that your name was this. Your first meal, other than mother's milk, was probably was given to you by your parents, right? Your first real meal probably included meat. So at a very young age, you're eating meat at 2 years old when they start giving kids regular food? You're still developing. You're seeing everything your parents do, what they talk about. You're taking all that in. First of all, when you finally realize what your name was, I don't know what age that is, but think about this. They're calling you a sound that you have no clue what this sound is, but they're trying to get your attention when they say this sound. So say your name is Paul. They keep you Paul, and then they get your attention. Paul, get your attention. Then finally you go, when they say that, they want me. And that's why a lot of times when the kids are not identified with their name fully yet, they'll speak in the third person.
Yeah.
Paul is hungry. They don't know that that's actually them. Right? So then you go forward, you're listening to your parents talk about things. Could be racism, could be politics, could be whatever. You're soaking that's getting all soaked in. The diet's given to you, now maybe they're religious. So you're going to church from day one while your brain and everything is getting formed. So you got the religion there, you got the diet there, you got your name there. You may or may not have what, your parents could be loving parents that love everybody, or they could be people that hate people. So you're getting all formed in this time. Now, this is your hard drive. So when you get about 7 years old, now boom, it's in there. So anything outside of that doesn't seem right to you. So you got all these things in your identity, and if I like to call them boxes, and if those boxes go against another person's program or boxes, now you have conflict. I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim. It's like, no, you were given that and you accepted it at one point, and you were given that and you accepted it at one point, and whatever comes with that, now you're bumping heads. So when you get to a certain place and you say, I am this, and I make my own decisions, and that's not true. Until you realize that you are programmed, you're going to stay in that program your entire life. And that's why when it says, and they say it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, it's because that program has been reinforced 50, 60, 70 years. You argued with people on these things that aren't even true for 50 years. Of course, you're not going to say you're wrong now. That's your program. This is your identity. And until you wake up and realize that that's not you, it's always going to be you to you. And that's what meditation did. It changed out the program, because in the program, by default, you're always going to go back to certain behaviors. Right? So you're always, and it doesn't matter who you're with. If you go from relationship to relationship, you're always going to have the same issues, because your behavior at the deepest level is going to be the same because of your program. So why do I always do this when things get hard? It's because that's your default.
Yeah.
That's your default mode. You're always going to go back to what you know, not what you want. We all want different things in our life. What we accept for ourselves and what we know, that's different. I didn't want to be an alcoholic, but guess what? That was my program. When times got hard, even if I was like, okay, I ain't going to drink I'm going to stop. One bad day, I'll send you right back to that. It's because whatever got you to that place in the first place has not been taken care of. That's why people can go into rehab and come out and relapse, because they didn't heal and change whatever needed to be healed. It's always there. All you're doing is forcing a stop. And when you force a stop, when the pressure gets enough, you're going to go back to your default, which is whatever it is, right? It could be being infidelity, right? It could be shopping. It could be just random sex. It could be alcohol. It could be drugs. It could be anything that's addicting. It could be food is the most overused drug there is. Why do you think obesity in America is so great? It's because it's an addiction. And when people feel stressed, what do they say? Comfort food. They want to be comforted. So that food gives them that high, just like a drug or alcohol would give that high, except for it's not looked down. It doesn't have that negative, connotation that drugs or alcohol does, even though it's killing people just the same. Although it's causing a lot of problems for a lot of people, but it's accepted. Just like alcohol is more accepted than cocaine, because there's a lot of people making money off of alcohol legally, and it's socially accepted. So when, if I go to a place and it's like, oh, you don't drink? Why you don't drink? It's like, it's poison. I've been there, done that, right? So I'm not talking bad about people that drink. I'm just saying it's a drug and it's socially accepted. So in our minds, we don't have a problem when we really do have a problem. This is a severe problem with alcoholism in this country. And I don't know about other countries, but I know they say, I think it was the last thing, 6 out of 10 people have an issue with alcohol. And then during the pandemic, it even got worse. Alcohol sales went up, alcoholism went up, domestic violence went up, all these things went up because people didn't know how to deal. They had to really get put in a position to deal with what they haven't been dealing with, right? Some people's escape is going to work because they don't like the relationship. So that was their break from the relationship. I need to get out of here. But now you're forced into this situation where it's either going to make you stronger or you're going to grow, or you're going to break up. So some relationships, they got a chance to really know each other better, and they got stronger and grew together. And then some people were like, this is too much. I wanted to go to work just to get away from you. And now I'm stuck with you, and I don't know why we were in this relationship in the first place, but it works out. It doesn't work out. You know what I'm saying? So it's really this whole thing is really a chance to grow. it's a chance to really evolve. But a lot of people, it was too much for them, and they had to jump into alcohol or drugs or whatever.
It certainly feels like this period of time has unearthed a lot in people. You know what? For some in the good in good ways, point of reflection as we talked about. For others, you know, it's brought to the surface some trauma that's perhaps undealt with and unspent. So it's a really interesting time to see how these kind of things end up manifesting themselves. Monk, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Time's got away from us. I could literally listen to you all night. I honestly could. It's just pure wisdom. I'll be honest. Just genuinely makes me want to pick up a copy of the book, which I'm going to do straight after this chat, and I advise everybody else to as well. I'm going to put links in the show notes so that people can click that link and go straight over to their either US or UK based point of sale for the book. But we'll do that, and the obviously your website as well. But for folks who don't know, where can they go about finding out a little bit more and hearing more from you?
Well, I got a website. It's monketernal.com. All my socials are there, and we're going to start selling the book from there as well. We're going to start doing that as well, you know, instead of going through Amazon. You can get it on Amazon, but it's Monk, M-O-N-K, eternal.com.
Awesome. Like I say, we'll have links up in the show notes so you can't miss them. Thank you so much, Monk. It's been an absolute pleasure. I do feel enlightened, positive. I feel like I've got some good stuff to think about and reflect on, and I thank you for that. So thank you, and have a good one.
Thank you, my brother.
Speak soon.